Most people feel stuck and isolated because they avoid the hard conversations that can bring healing. On Let's Get Real with Jenna Burris, we tackle life's challenges like motherhood, mental health, and relationships, so you can break free, find healing, and move forward. Because in order to heal, we have to get real. So pull up a chair and let's dive in. Have you ever felt like you're carrying around a weight that you can't quite explain? And no matter how hard you try, you just can't put it into words and you're left feeling like you have to just pretend like everything's okay? I've been there. I used to think that these burdens were something I had to keep to myself. But then I've learned that healing starts with getting real. Real about the pain, real about the struggles, and the things that keep us stuck. Welcome to the first episode of Let's Get Real. I'm Jenna Burris, and this podcast is all about having honest, real conversations about the things that keep us stuck. Because I believe that in order to heal, we first have to get real. In this episode, I want to share my story, how I've experienced different struggles, what has helped me find freedom, and why I'm so passionate about creating this space for you. So let's get started. Let me take you back to where it all began. A childhood experience that shaped my desire for having honest, real conversations. One of the experiences that shaped me happened when I was just 11 years old. As the oldest in my family growing up, I felt like there was this unspoken rule that I had to carry everything on my own. I just had to keep it together, and there was nowhere and no one that I could go when life got hard. On top of that, I was also a competitive gymnast. And as one of the youngest, I was surrounded by teenagers. And so I remember hearing them talk about all these different things that they were experiencing, like their boyfriends, the things they would do with their boyfriends, parties, things that would happen at the parties. And I remember having so many questions, feeling confused, but also feeling like I couldn't go to them and ask them these questions I had. I was once again left with having to hold all of that to myself. Then I went through a traumatic event that left me lost and confused. It completely flipped my world upside down overnight. And not only was I I didn't know how to process this pain, but I also didn't feel like there was anyone that I could go to. So I was left having to carry this burden by myself. And that burden was far too heavy for an 11-year-old to bear. Keeping all that pain inside started to take a toll. I didn't have the words for it at the time, but looking back, I can see that I was experiencing deep depression and shame. My sister remembers looking at photos of me during that time and seeing that there was not one picture of me smiling. That is how much of turmoil that I was going through. I couldn't even get myself to smile because I was in so much pain. For a couple of years, I ended up shutting down. I felt like I just couldn't trust anyone and completely retreated in. I really believed that I had to figure out everything on my own. But then a couple years later, something changed. A friend came into my life who shared very honestly her thoughts and feelings. These were thoughts and feelings, things that I had really thought about before, but I never dared to speak out loud. It was her vulnerability that started to create this space for me to learn how to open up and start sharing again. This was the first time I felt like I didn't have to carry everything on my own. She was a huge catalyst in teaching me how to trust people again. That friendship was an absolute lifeline for me. It didn't fix everything overnight, but it was the start of healing in ways that I desperately needed, but I had no idea how to get and where I could possibly experience that. I learned how powerful it is to have someone just hold space for you. I learned that I didn't have to carry all this pain alone. I didn't have to carry these burdens by myself anymore, that there was someone who would walk with me through this and create the space to just let me share. This experience is what has planted the seeds of what I'm doing today. There are too many of us that are carrying around these massive burdens on our own, and it's absolutely crushing us. That's why I'm here. To help you feel seen and create a space to remind you that healing is possible. This experience showed me what's possible when we allow ourselves to be seen and supported. It was monumental in my life. Although this is something that gave me so much hope, life did not stop throwing challenges my way. So it was several years later that I ended up finding myself in some debilitating depression. I was in my early 20s and I was experiencing such severe depression that it just felt like a massive weight that wouldn't lift. Most days I could barely muster the energy to get out of bed. I felt really hopeless and like there was nothing that would change the darkness of what I was experiencing. One day I managed to drag myself to a church service. At the end of the service, they had time for prayer. So you could go up and any kind of prayer that you needed, you could just go ask for it. Someone would pray for you. So I remember being so desperate and being like, whatever, I'm going to just walk my way up. I just need help. Whatever way, shape, and form that looks, I need help. So while I was waiting in line, I end up being the next one to go. And I see this woman who looked very kind and approachable. So I walk up to her and let her know, like, I need so much prayer for the depression I'm in and just really how helpless I was feeling. So she was so kind and she just really listened to me and cared for me. Like she just listened and prayed. That was it. She didn't try to fix me. She didn't do any of that. And that was an experience where this was someone I felt like she just cared. I felt so cared for in the first time in a long time. Like this was just a person's presence who was entering into some of the depths and the darkness of despair that I was experiencing. And I can't tell you what a relief it felt to invite someone in. And they did. Like they just showed up, she prayed, and she just didn't flinch. A couple days later, I got a phone call and it was from this same woman who prayed for me. She asked if I wanted any help in my thought life. And while I had no clue what that meant, I was desperate. So I said, absolutely yes, whatever that means, sign me up, I'll show up. So from then on out, we started meeting once a week. We met at the church and she met me in my pain. Every week, this amazing woman sat with me in all the hurt and the darkness while I just bawled my eyes out. She was such a steady presence for me. Like she heard the really ugly parts of my story and she didn't flinch. She stayed with me and really walked me through this very, very dark time. And not only did she pray with me, but she equipped me with tools that really helped me get out on the other side of this depression and the darkness that I was in. It's because of her guidance that I've been able to walk in freedom for years. And this is something that I no longer struggle with. Like I no longer struggle with debilitating depression. I mean, yes, I will feel these depressive feelings because life is hard and I'm human and we all have feelings that inevitably come up. However, depression itself no longer has a hold on me. And I am eternally grateful for her because she was another lifeline for me in that season at the time that I needed it most. Looking back, I see how significant it was to have her walk with me through that season. Like I realized the power of someone's presence and their willingness to just walk alongside you until you get to the other end of that very dark tunnel. The thing that was so powerful is that she didn't just see my pain. She came alongside me, like she met me in that pain and she helped me find a way out. She equipped me with tools. She prayed for me. She did all those things. She just has been so unwavering. And I'm just so grateful for her because I wouldn't be in the place I am now if it wasn't for her. And the power of having someone meet us in our pain and meet us in the darkness, it's the thing we need. That is the thing we need to help us heal and find freedom that is on the other side. That season taught me the power of connection. We hear about connection, we hear about community, but it's so underestimated as far as like how essential that is to us as human beings. I've also learned that healing is a process. Although, we wish it would just happen overnight in an instant. Like, yes, that sometimes can happen, very rarely. However, most of the time, healing is a process. And that process is something I learned to embrace and learn as a normal way of life, like a normal way of healing. Healing's a process most of the time. While we can't do it alone, there are steps we can take to reclaim the person that we were made to be. That's what this podcast is about. It's about getting real so we can heal. And sometimes healing starts with having just one honest conversation. I eventually started taking bigger steps in my healing journey. I started meeting regularly with therapists who helped me name and process the pain. I also did group therapy and story work, which is where I dug into some of the deeper layers of my story to help release the shame that was keeping me stuck. I've learned that healing doesn't have to start with therapy. It can actually start with one safe person that you trust who can just listen and be non-judgmental and really hold your story with care. Our healing happens in the presence of another person, someone who is willing to just sit with you and listen and acknowledge the pain that you've been in. When we get to experience that with another person, in the presence of another person, there is so much healing that happens, yes, but also that is where you'll feel like a huge weight and burden is lifted off your shoulders. For some of you, maybe you don't have that. Maybe you haven't experienced that. But I really encourage you to look for someone. Just all we need is one person. It could be a friend, it could be a therapist, it could be someone in between. But we just need that one person who can acknowledge what we've been through and create the space to let us share. My journey isn't just shaped by my personal experiences. It's also deeply informed by my education and professional training. After working through some of my own personal struggles, I felt called to help others in these similar ways. That's why I ended up going back to school and getting my master's in marriage and family therapy and becoming a certified life coach. I've learned that combining professional tools and lived experiences is the key to helping others find healing and freedom. Therapy gave me the tools to better understand mental and emotional health on a deeper level, while coaching has taught me how to better empower others to be able to take action so they can move forward. This combination of knowledge and experience is what I bring to the conversations that we'll be having on this podcast. And while my education is invaluable, it's really my personal life experiences that continue to be the driving force behind everything that I do. Another big part of my story is how I lost myself in the multiple roles that I've played, especially as a wife and a mom. My husband Miles played in the NFL and is now an actor in Hollywood. And while from the outside this might seem exciting and glamorous, behind the scenes I was really struggling. I didn't realize it at the time, but I started to base my own value and sense of worth on his career and all the expectations that came with it. The world praised Miles for his spotlight gifts, his athleticism, and his success in football, while I devalued my own. My gifts weren't as visible, so I ended up thinking that they didn't matter. And if my gifts didn't matter, then maybe I didn't either. So I shelved my dreams, talents, and gifts to support him and his career. And while putting your own gifts aside to support your spouse isn't a bad thing, it's really the why behind it, which is where I got stuck. My motive came from believing that apart from Miles, I just didn't have any value. I started to see myself as just Miles' wife. And when I ended up quitting my career so that I could support him in his and our life together, I ended up feeling very lost. Like I had no idea who I was anymore. Looking back, a lot of this came from how I defined myself, like through performance, productivity, job titles. And when all of that was stripped away, I just felt lost. I remember one day we were driving in the car and this just came out of my mouth as like, look, I can't act. I'm not tall enough to be a model. I can't sing. I can't even rap. And he cuts me off. He just starts laughing. He's like, wait, what? Where did that even come from? You can't rap? I was like, yeah, just throw it on the list. But it revealed that I believe deep down that these spotlight gifts, the ones that are very visible, that the world and our culture praises, that they were the ones worth anything. And because I didn't really have those spotlight gifts, I just felt so less than and like I really didn't have much to offer. This way of thinking stripped me of my value and left me feeling invisible, not just to the world and other people, but also to myself. I had allowed culture to define what was important, and in doing so, I've really just lost sight of who I was. Over the years, and especially after becoming a mom, I have been in this journey and the process of rediscovering who I am and reclaiming these parts of me that have been lost along the way. really just picking up the pieces and reclaiming the value, my God-given gifts, the value that I have, and the person that I was really made to be. I've learned that our worth isn't determined by our achievements or who we're married to, but by our own uniqueness and the purpose that each of us bring into the world. I've discovered that rediscovering yourself is one of the most important things you can do. The healthier that I have become, the better I've been able to show up for my husband, my kids, and myself. That's a big part of why I'm here, because I know I'm not the only one who has felt this way. Maybe you have felt invisible or like your gifts don't matter. I want to create a space where we can challenge those lies together, rediscover who we are, and reclaim the value that we've had all along. This journey of losing myself, then finding myself again, is one of the reasons I created this podcast. I want this to be a place where we can break down walls, have honest conversations, and tackle the things that are getting us stuck. Whether it's motherhood, mental health, or rediscovering who you are, this podcast is about starting conversations that lead to healing and freedom. You can expect solo episodes where I bring personal stories and practical tools, as well as guest interviews who bring expertise and lived experiences. My goal is to equip you to step into the life that you were made to live. More conversations are coming. Conversations that change you, challenge you, encourage you, and equip you with the tools that you need to move forward. I'm so glad you're here and can't wait to continue to walk this journey with you. Let's get real. Thanks for listening to Let's Get Real. If something from today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a conversation. Until next time, remember that in order to heal, we have to get real. Talk to you soon, friend.